Forced alliance. The video conference call began at 0600 hours, and Maya had barely slept. Across the split screen, Director Sarah Chen from the agency looked stern, while Commander Patrick Hayes from Naval Special Warfare Operations appeared equally displeased. Jackson sat beside Maya in the temporary safe house, his presence a constant reminder of her failure. "Your unauthorized engagement compromised operational security," Director Chen stated flatly. However, the overlap in intelligence suggests a larger network than either operation anticipated. Konstantin Volkov isn't just trafficking weapons. He's positioning himself as a broker between three different terrorist organizations. Commander Hayes leaned forward. "Cross, you'll be partnering with Agent Hartley's team for the duration. Volkov's compound has been located in the Carpathian Mountains. We need combined cyber intelligence and tactical assault capabilities." Maya's jaw tightened. Partnering meant trust, and trust required vulnerability she had spent years avoiding. "Director, my team operates effectively with established protocols. Introducing new elements isn't a request, Hartley," Chen interrupted. "You made an error of judgment. Cross demonstrated restraint that prevented an international incident. Learn from it." The screen went dark. Maya sat in uncomfortable silence, aware of Jackson's calm presence beside her. He hadn't gloated, hadn't even mentioned the incident to his superiors beyond the necessary report. That somehow made her feel worse. "I don't need babysitting," she said finally. "Good, because I don't babysit," replied Jackson evenly. "I need your cyber expertise, and you need tactical support for a hardened target. Volkov has military-grade security systems that require your kind of technical manipulation to breach." Over the next 3 days, they worked to synchronize their operational approaches. Maya discovered that Jackson's calm exterior masked an incredibly sharp tactical mind. He asked questions about her surveillance methods that revealed understanding of complex electronic systems, while she grudgingly admitted his threat assessment skills exceeded her own. Their first joint field operation came in Sarajevo, tracking one of Volkov's couriers through the Bash-Arshia market. Maya wore civilian clothes, a headscarf covering her distinctive auburn hair, while Jackson posed as a tourist with a camera. The crowded marketplace provided excellent cover for surveillance. Target moving toward the mosque. He's carrying a leather satchel, probably encrypted communications or payment authorization codes. Jackson's voice came back steady. "3 suspicious individuals at your 4 o'clock, showing tactical awareness inconsistent with civilian shoppers. Could be counter-surveillance." Maya's pulse quickened. She had been so focused on the courier that she had missed the protective detail. Amateur mistake, the kind that got agents killed. Before she could respond, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The suspicious individuals moved with sudden purpose, and she realized with cold certainty that her cover was blown. "Compromised, moving to extraction point Beta," she transmitted, weaving through the crowded market. Behind her, footsteps quickened. Her training kicked in. Stay calm. Use crowds. Don't draw weapons in civilian areas. A hand grabbed her arm. Maya spun, defensive strikes ready, but Jackson was already there. His movements were surgical, a shoulder check that looked accidental but sent one pursuer stumbling into a produce cart, a subtle foot placement that tripped another without anyone noticing. He gripped Maya's hand, pulling her into a narrow alley. "This way," he said quietly, his tactical awareness processing a dozen variables simultaneously. They emerged onto a side street where Dmitri waited with a van, and within minutes, they were clear. Back at the safe house, Maya's hands trembled slightly as she debriefed. She had been made, something that rarely happened. Jackson sat across from her, cleaning his equipment with methodical precision. "You saved me," she said finally. "You would have extracted yourself," he replied. "I just expedited the process." "Stop being diplomatic. I missed the counter-surveillance team. You didn't." Jackson looked up, his gray eyes serious. You were focused on the primary objective. That's not wrong. It's just incomplete. Everyone has blind spots, Maya. The key is having someone covering them. That night, unable to sleep, Maya found Jackson on the balcony, overlooking the city. The Sarajevo skyline glittered with lights, beautiful and scarred simultaneously, much like the people who inhabited it. Why did you show restraint? In the warehouse, you could have been harsher with my team. Jackson was quiet for a moment. My younger brother, Ethan, died 7 years ago. Training accident. Completely preventable. Someone made an assumption, didn't verify intelligence, and Ethan paid the price. I learned that day that anger doesn't bring people back, and that every person going into danger deserves to come home if possible. Maya felt something crack in her defensive walls. I'm sorry about your brother. I'm sorry about whatever made you feel like you always have to prove you're the smartest person in the room, Jackson replied gently. Because you are brilliant, Maya, but brilliance doesn't require isolation. She found herself talking, words spilling out in ways they rarely did, about growing up with an alcoholic father whose unpredictability taught her to rely only on herself, about her first field assignment, where trusting a partner had nearly gotten her killed, about building walls so high that loneliness became her constant companion. Jackson listened without judgment, occasionally sharing his own stories of loss and adaptation. When dawn broke over Sarajevo, something fundamental had shifted between them. The forced alliance was becoming something else, a partnership built not on obligation, but on genuine understanding. Life lesson. Strength isn't diminished by accepting help or acknowledging limitations. True capability comes from recognizing that collaboration multiplies effectiveness and that vulnerability with trustworthy people creates bonds stronger than any armor of self-sufficiency we might construct alone.
Trust under fire. The Carpathian Mountains rose like ancient teeth against the winter sky, their peaks disappearing into low clouds. Maya studied the satellite imagery of Volkov's compound with growing concern. The facility was a converted Soviet-era research station, isolated and heavily fortified, with electronic countermeasures that would challenge even her considerable hacking abilities. "We'll need to get inside his inner circle," Jackson said, tracing potential entry points on the tactical map. "Volkov is paranoid. He only meets with buyers he's vetted extensively." Dimi, who had warmed considerably to Jackson after Sarajevo, offered a solution. "Our intelligence suggests Volkov is seeking buyers for a shipment of advanced encryption technology, stolen military-grade communications equipment. If we pose as buyers with enough credentials and cash, we might get an audience." The plan crystallized quickly. Maya and Jackson would pose as married technology brokers with connections to various international clients. The cover required them to create a convincing backstory, complete with fabricated online presence, financial records, and relationship history that would survive Volkov's scrutiny. "Married," Maya repeated, the word feeling strange. She had never maintained a romantic relationship lasting more than a few months, always finding reasons why work came first. "It's the most convincing cover for this scenario," Jackson replied, though something flickered in his expression. "Partnerships of this nature typically involve couples. Volkov believes married teams are more stable, less likely to be undercover operatives." They spent 2 days building their cover identities. Maya became Elena Novak, a Czech cryptography expert with a morally flexible approach to clients. Jackson transformed into Marcus Wolf, her American husband and business partner specializing in logistics and security. Their fabricated history included a meeting at a technology conference in Berlin, a whirlwind romance, and 3 years of profitable illegal dealings. The deeper deception required physical preparation. They practiced casual touches, the intimate shorthand of long-term couples, the way married people moved in coordinated patterns without conscious thought. Maya found herself hyper-aware of every contact point. Jackson's hand on her lower back, his casual arm around her shoulders, the way he anticipated her movements. "You're thinking too hard," he said during one rehearsal. "Married couples don't calculate every touch. They just exist together naturally." "I don't do natural," Maya admitted. "Then pretend I'm a complex algorithm you're trying to decode," Jackson suggested with a slight smile. "Find the pattern, then let it run automatically." Surprisingly, the approach worked. Maya began recognizing Jackson's rhythms, the subtle tells in his body language, the way his tactical awareness never fully switched off even in safe moments. He in turn learned her analytical patterns, the way her brilliant mind never stopped processing information. The meeting with Volkov was scheduled at a restaurant in a small Carpathian village. Maya wore an elegant dress that concealed multiple surveillance devices, while Jackson's tailored suit hid communication equipment and defensive tools. They arrived in an expensive rental car, playing their roles perfectly. Konstantin Volkov was a thin man with calculating eyes and hands that never stopped moving. His lieutenant, a scarred Bulgarian named Petrov, watched them with open suspicion throughout dinner. The conversation revolved around technical specifications, payment terms, and delivery logistics. Maya handled the technical discussions, while Jackson projected casual confidence about their network and capabilities. "You are newly married?" Petrov asked suddenly, his English heavily accented. "This is unusual in business partnerships. Love makes people weak, vulnerable to pressure." Jackson's hand found Maya's across the table, his touch sending unexpected electricity through her nervous system. "On the contrary," he replied smoothly, "being married to the woman who understands encryption better than anyone in Eastern Europe makes me stronger. We protect each other's blind spots." Something in his tone made the words feel less like performance and more like truth. Maya found herself squeezing his hand back, no longer entirely sure where the cover ended and genuine feeling began. Volkov leaned back, studying them with predatory interest. "You will come to my facility tomorrow. I wish to show you the merchandise personally. Bring nothing electronic. My security will detect any surveillance equipment. If you are what you claim, we will do business. If not..." He let the threat hang in the air. Back at their hotel room, a single suite to maintain the cover, Maya paced nervously. "He's suspicious. Petrov doesn't believe us." "Petrov doesn't believe anyone," Jackson countered, removing his jacket. "But Volkov is interested. Your technical expertise impressed him." Maya stopped pacing, suddenly aware of the intimate setting. One bed dominated the room, though Jackson had already laid out pillows on the couch for himself without comment. The consideration touched her more than she expected. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For earlier, what she said about protecting blind spots." Jackson met her eyes, and the intensity there made her breath catch. "I wasn't entirely acting, Maya. These past weeks, working with you, you challenged me in ways I didn't expect. Your mind is extraordinary, but more than that, you're brave enough to adapt when you realize you're wrong. That's rare." She stepped closer, drawn by something she couldn't name. "I was wrong about you. Completely, utterly wrong. You're not just skilled. You're good. Genuinely good in ways I've stopped believing people could be. And you're not as isolated as you pretend to be," he replied softly. "You care deeply about your team, about getting things right, about protecting people. You just hide it behind analysis and protocols." The space between them felt charged with possibility. Maya recognized the feeling as dangerous, the kind of vulnerability that led to mistakes and compromised judgment. Yet for the first time in years, she wanted to risk it anyway. Jackson's hand touched her cheek gently. "This mission requires us to appear intimate. But when it's over, when we're no longer playing roles, I need you to know that what I feel isn't part of the cover. I see you, Maya Hartley, the brilliant, guarded, extraordinary woman behind all the defenses, and I'm falling for her despite every tactical reason why I shouldn't." Maya's analytical mind screamed warnings about emotional compromise and professional boundaries, but her heart, that carefully locked part of herself she barely acknowledged, recognized truth when it heard it. "I'm terrified," she whispered. "Good," Jackson replied. "That means it matters." They didn't kiss yet, but they stood together in that hotel room, foreheads touching, breathing the same air, and Maya felt walls she had built over decades beginning to crumble. Tomorrow they would infiltrate a dangerous criminal compound. Tonight, they were just two people discovering connection could exist even in the midst of deception and danger. Life lesson. Vulnerability is not weakness, but courage, the bravery to risk emotional exposure, even when logic suggests protection. Genuine intimacy requires letting someone see not just our strengths, but our fears, creating bonds that transform both individuals into something stronger than either could be alone.
Sacrifice and salvation. The morning arrived with heavy fog blanketing the Carpathian Valley, creating an atmosphere of isolated menace. Maya and Jackson drove their rental car up the winding mountain road toward Volkov's compound, each lost in private thoughts. The facility loomed ahead, concrete walls topped with surveillance cameras, armed guards at reinforced checkpoints, every inch designed to prevent infiltration or escape. "Communications will be limited inside," Maya said, checking her minimalist equipment one final time. Volkov's security screening would detect anything sophisticated, so she carried only items that could pass as innocent. A compact makeup case contained micro-surveillance tools disguised as cosmetics, while Jackson's watch housed a distress beacon they could activate only in extreme emergency. The security screening was thorough and invasive. Guards confiscated their phones, scanned them with handheld detectors, and escorted them through multiple checkpoints. Maya maintained her Elena Novak persona perfectly, confident, slightly bored, expensive. Jackson projected casual authority, the businessman who had navigated dangerous situations before. Volkov greeted them in a surprisingly modern control room filled with computer servers and monitoring equipment. "Welcome to my home," he said with cold hospitality. "Here, I am completely secure. No government can touch me. No surveillance can penetrate my systems. I have made myself invisible to the world that would judge my business." He led them through the facility, showing off the stolen encryption technology with obvious pride. Maya asked technical questions that demonstrated genuine expertise, while her trained eye cataloged security weaknesses. Jackson engaged Volkov in conversation about logistics, subtly gathering intelligence about distribution networks and client lists. Petrov remained their shadow, his suspicious gaze never wavering. Maya felt his scrutiny like physical pressure, aware that one wrong word or gesture could expose them. The turning point came during lunch. Volkov poured expensive wine, his mood expansive as he described future business possibilities. "You understand, Elena, that trust in my world is earned through demonstration. I have researched your background thoroughly, but research can be fabricated by skilled intelligence operatives." Maya's pulse quickened imperceptibly. "Our credentials are genuine. We have client references, transaction histories." "Yes, yes," Volkov interrupted with a dismissive wave, "but I have learned that married couples often have tensions, disagreements. What happens, I wonder, when such couples face pressure?" Petrov moved almost imperceptibly, positioning himself between them and the exit. Maya's tactical awareness screamed danger, but she maintained her composed exterior. "We need supplies from the village," Jackson said suddenly, his tone casual but his body language communicating urgent warning to Maya. "Elena mentioned wanting specific items for this evening. I can accompany her." "Nonsense," Volkov replied smoothly. "Petrov will escort your lovely wife. You and I have business details to discuss, Marcus. Surely a strong, independent woman like Elena can handle a simple supply run alone." Maya recognized the test immediately. Volkov was separating them, assessing how they reacted to forced division. Refusing would appear suspicious, but accepting meant losing Jackson's protection and tactical support. "Of course," she said with perfect calmness, touching Jackson's hand briefly. Their eyes met, entire conversations happening in that split second. "Be careful. Trust me. Come back." "I won't be long." The drive down the mountain with Petrov felt like descending into a trap. The Bulgarian said nothing, but his hand rested casually near his weapon. Maya maintained light conversation, commenting on the beautiful scenery, playing the role of the slightly vapid technology expert who happened to be good with computers. The village market was small and quiet. Maya selected items slowly, her mind racing through contingency plans. Petrov's phone rang, and he stepped away to answer, his eyes never leaving her. Through her trained observation, she read his body language, tension, confirmation, aggressive intent. She was made. Somehow Volkov had discovered the deception. Maya moved instinctively toward the village's exit, but Petrov was faster. His hand gripped her arm with brutal force, and she felt the cold press of a gun against her ribs. "Walk to the car naturally," he commanded in low tones. "Volkov wishes to speak with you about certain inconsistencies in your cover identity." The drive back up the mountain was silent and terrifying. Maya's analytical mind processed scenarios, none of them good. Volkov would interrogate her, probably torture her for information about agency operations. Jackson was alone in the compound, surrounded by armed guards. Their mission had catastrophically failed. The interrogation room was exactly what she expected: stark, cold, equipped with restraints and implements designed to extract information through pain. Volkov stood waiting, his earlier hospitality replaced with icy fury. "Special Agent Maya Hartley," he said, consulting a tablet. 7 years with American intelligence, specialized in cyber operations, responsible for disrupting 4 major trafficking networks. Quite impressive. Your partner, Jackson Cross, is currently held separately, Navy SEAL, which explains his combat efficiency. You both played your roles well, but my contacts in various intelligence communities are extensive. A photograph from Sarajevo reached me this morning. You were slightly less careful with your surveillance than you believed." Maya said nothing, her training keeping her silent despite the fear crawling through her system. Volkov circled her like a predator. "I respect competence, even in my enemies," he continued, "so I will make you an offer. Tell me everything about your agency's operations in Eastern Europe, and I will allow you both to live. Refuse, and I will make Jackson Cross watch while Petrov demonstrates very specific interrogation techniques before killing him slowly. Then we will see how long your loyalty lasts." The door opened, and guards dragged in Jackson, blood trailing from a cut above his eye. He had clearly fought and fought hard, but numbers had overwhelmed him. Their eyes met across the room, and Maya saw determination there, not fear. "Don't tell him anything," Jackson said firmly. "Maya, don't—" Petrov's fist silenced him. Maya felt rage unlike anything she had experienced. The sight of Jackson's blood ignited something primal in her carefully controlled psyche. The interrogation began. Volkov's questions were precise, designed to extract maximum intelligence about agency operations, personnel, and methods. Maya remained silent, her training holding despite the psychological pressure. She watched Jackson endure escalating violence, each blow against him feeling like it landed on her own body. Hours passed. Maya lost track of time, focused only on Jackson's breathing, on keeping him alive through sheer force of will. Volkov grew frustrated, his controlled demeanor cracking. "You care for him," he observed suddenly. "This is not professional partnership. This is emotional attachment, which means vulnerability."
Petrov, prepare the enhanced interrogation protocols. We'll see how Agent Hartley's silence holds when we truly begin hurting her Navy SEAL. In that moment, Maya made a choice. She would give Volkov false information, carefully crafted misinformation that would seem genuine but would actually protect operations and personnel. She began talking, weaving together truth and lies with her considerable analytical skill, buying time, hoping desperately for extraction or opportunity. What she didn't know was that Jackson had managed to activate their emergency beacon during the initial struggle, before being captured, and that miles away, a joint extraction team was already mobilizing, racing against time to reach them. Petrov had just raised a weapon toward Jackson when the compound's alarms screamed to life. Explosions rocked the facility as a tactical assault team breached the outer perimeter. Volkov's face went white with shock and rage. In the chaos, Jackson moved. Despite his injuries, his SEAL training took over. He struck Petrov with devastating efficiency, seizing the Bulgarian's weapon and creating cover for Maya. She broke her restraints. They had been inadequate for someone with her escape training, and together they moved toward the exit. The compound had become a war zone. Volkov's guards fought the extraction team in vicious close-quarters combat. Jackson and Maya navigated the chaos with perfect synchronization, their weeks of training together creating seamless coordination. He covered her blind spots, she anticipated his movements, and they fought their way toward the facility's vehicle bay. Gunfire chased them as they reached a utility vehicle. Jackson drove with one hand, shooting with the other, while Maya provided tactical guidance based on her memorized facility layout. They crashed through a weak point in the perimeter fence she had identified during their tour, the vehicle taking heavy damage but maintaining enough functionality to reach the extraction point. The helicopter appeared through the fog like salvation, but between them and rescue stretched 200 meters of open ground with Volkov's guards establishing firing positions. Jackson assessed the situation with cold tactical clarity. "I'll provide covering fire. You run. Don't stop for anything." "We go together," Maya insisted fiercely. "Maya, listen," he began, but she cut him off. "No, you told me partnerships mean—"
Forged in fire. The safe house overlooking Lake Geneva offered peace that felt almost surreal after the violence of Volkov's compound. Maya stood on the balcony, watching the Swiss Alps glow pink in the dawn light, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders against the morning chill. Behind her, through the open door, she could hear Jackson's steady breathing as he slept in the recovery bed. 3 weeks had passed since the extraction. Jackson's shoulder wound had been serious, but not critical. The bullet had missed major arteries, and his SEAL conditioning had aided rapid healing. Maya's interrogation had left mostly psychological scars, though bruises still colored her wrists where the restraints had cut deep. Volkov's compound had been destroyed in the extraction operation, and the arms dealer himself had been captured attempting to flee across the Romanian border. The intelligence Maya had memorized during their time inside, combined with data Jackson had managed to upload before their cover was blown, had led to the dismantling of Volkov's entire trafficking network. 17 major arrests across 6 countries, millions in illegal weapons seized, and 3 terrorist plots disrupted. Director Chen had called it the most successful joint operation in recent agency history. Commander Hayes had recommended both of them for commendations. But none of that mattered to Maya as much as the man sleeping 20 feet away, recovering because of wounds he had taken protecting her. "You're thinking too loud," Jackson's voice came from inside. "I can hear your analytical mind processing from here." Maya smiled, returning to the bedroom. Jackson sat up carefully, his shoulder heavily bandaged, but his color much improved. The past weeks had been strangely domestic. She had helped him with physical therapy exercises. He had patiently listened to her process the trauma of interrogation, and together they had discovered what life could be when danger receded and trust remained. I was thinking about patterns, she admitted, sitting on the edge of his bed. How my entire life has been about identifying patterns, predicting outcomes, maintaining control. And how you're the variable that doesn't fit any of my models. Jackson's hand found hers, the gesture now completely natural. Is that a complaint? It's an observation, Maya replied with a slight smile. A good observation, actually. You taught me that not everything needs to be controlled or predicted. That sometimes the most valuable things are the ones that surprise you. Demike had visited the previous week, bringing news that the agency wanted Maya to lead a new joint task force focused on international trafficking networks. The position would be prestigious, demanding, and would likely involve regular partnership with Naval Special Operations, specifically with Jackson Cross. Have you decided about the task force? Jackson asked, reading her thoughts as he increasingly could. Maya was quiet for a moment, considering. The old Maya would have accepted immediately, seeing only the career advancement and strategic importance. But the woman she had become through fire and blood and love recognized other factors deserving consideration. I want to accept, she said carefully, but only if you're genuinely interested in continuing to work together. Not because of obligation or because we're involved, because you actually believe in the mission. Jackson shifted, wincing slightly, and pulled her closer with his good arm. Maya, I spent 10 years as a SEAL operating alone or with temporary teams, never letting anyone truly close because emotional attachment seemed like tactical weakness. Then you tried to capture me in that Bucharest warehouse, and everything changed. You challenged every assumption I had about strength and vulnerability. Working with you isn't obligation, it's the most fulfilling professional experience of my life, separate from but enhanced by the fact that I'm completely in love with you. Tears threatened again, and Maya no longer tried to suppress them. Crying wasn't weakness, she had learned. It was honest acknowledgement of profound emotion, the kind that came from allowing someone to truly matter. I love you too, she said, the words easier each time. I'm still learning how to do this, how to be someone who trusts and relies on another person. I'm probably going to make mistakes. We both will, Jackson assured her, but we'll make them together. And we'll figure out solutions together. That's what partnerships mean. Later that morning, they video-conferenced with Director Chen and Commander Hayes to formally accept the task force leadership. Both supervisors looked pleased, though Chen's expression held knowing amusement. Agent Hartley, Lieutenant Cross, I trust you understand that personal relationships between partners require careful management in operational settings, Chen said diplomatically. With respect, Director, Maya replied confidently, our personal relationship enhances rather than compromises our professional effectiveness. We've proven that trust and emotional connection create stronger tactical coordination. I understand this challenges traditional operational protocols, but the results speak for themselves. Hayes actually smiled. I agree with Hartley. Cross, your performance during the Volkov operation exceeded every expectation. The combination of her analytical intelligence and your tactical expertise is formidable. If your personal relationship strengthens that combination, the Navy has no objection. After the call ended, Maya felt a lightness she hadn't experienced since childhood, the freedom of knowing she no longer had to choose between professional excellence and personal connection. She could have both, could be brilliant operative and woman in love. Jackson recovered steadily over the following weeks. They remained in Switzerland, using the time to decompress and plan their future. Evenings were spent discussing task force strategies, mornings devoted to physical therapy together, afternoons exploring the beautiful alpine countryside. One evening, Walking along the lakeshore as the sun set behind distant peaks, Jackson stopped suddenly. The golden light illuminated his face as he turned to Maya, his expression serious. Before all this started, before Bucharest and Sarajevo and Volkov, I thought I understood what strength meant, he said quietly. I believed it was about self-reliance, about never needing anyone, about facing danger alone. You taught me something more important, that true strength is recognizing when you need help and having the courage to accept it. That vulnerability with the right person doesn't weaken you, but makes you stronger than you could ever be alone. Maya felt her throat tighten with emotion. You taught me the same lesson. I spent years building walls, convinced that independence meant isolation. You showed me that letting someone in, trusting them completely, creates a bond stronger than any armor. I want to spend my life proving that to you, every single day, through missions and danger, and also through quiet moments like this. Maya Hartley, will you marry me? The question hung in the alpine air, beautiful and terrifying and perfect. Maya's analytical mind tried to process variables, the complications of marriage between operatives, the challenges of maintaining relationship alongside dangerous work, the 1,000 ways this could become complicated. Then she silenced that voice and listened instead to her heart, to the woman she had become through trusting Jackson, through learning that love wasn't weakness, but extraordinary courage. Yes, she said simply. Yes, I'll marry you. Not because it's tactically sound or strategically advantageous, because I cannot imagine facing the future without you beside me. Because you see all of me, the brilliant parts and the broken parts and the parts still learning to trust, and you love every single piece. Jackson kissed her then, gentle and deep, and Maya felt herself melting into the embrace of the man who had taught her what it meant to truly live rather than merely survive. 6 months later, they stood before their closest colleagues and friends, Dmitri, Anya, Carlos, Mikhail from Maya's team, and several of Jackson's SEAL brothers, in a small ceremony overlooking that same Swiss lake. Director Chen attended, as did Commander Hayes, both looking pleased with the union of their respective operatives. Maya wore a simple, elegant dress rather than tactical gear, and Jackson stood in his dress uniform, his shoulder fully healed, and as they exchanged vows they had written themselves, promising not just love, but partnership and trust and the courage to remain vulnerable, Maya recognized the profound transformation she had undergone. The woman who had ordered an attack on Jackson Cross in that Bucharest warehouse would not have recognized the woman standing here now, opening her heart completely to another human.
The rain fell in sheets across the abandoned warehouse district of Bucharest, turning every shadow into a potential threat. Maya Hartley crouched behind a rusted shipping container, her breath forming small clouds in the cold November air. Through her tactical headset, she monitored 3 different communication channels simultaneously, while her fingers danced across a portable tablet, tracking encrypted signals that had been interfering with her team's operations for the past 48 hours. "Position?" she whispered into her comms. "North perimeter secure," came the response from Dmitri, her second in command. "No movement detected." Maya's eyes narrowed as another signal spike appeared on her screen. Someone was definitely out there, someone skilled enough to nearly mask their electronic footprint. Her team had been tracking a weapons trafficking network for 3 months, getting closer to the main supplier with each operation. She couldn't afford interference now, not when they were this close to identifying the kingpin. The figure moved between buildings like smoke, barely visible even through her night vision goggles. Male, approximately 6 feet tall, moving with military precision. Maya's pulse quickened. Enemy operative, had to be. No civilian moved like that, and her intelligence suggested the trafficking network had hired mercenary protection.
Target acquired, 200 meters east, she transmitted. Initiate containment protocol Delta. Her four-person team moved into position with practiced efficiency. Maya had trained them well during her 7 years with the agency. Every mission required absolute precision, and she accepted nothing less than perfection. That demanding nature had earned her respect and results, though few genuine friendships. The stranger paused near a doorway, seemingly aware of the net closing around him. Maya watched as her team tightened formation. Any second now, they would have him cornered, neutralized, and ready for interrogation. Perhaps he could provide the missing link to Volkov's operation. Execute, she commanded. What happened next occurred so quickly that Maya's tactical mind struggled to process it. Her team member, Carlos, emerged from cover, weapon raised, and the stranger simply wasn't there anymore. The figure moved with impossible speed, disarming Carlos with a fluid motion that looked almost gentle before sweeping his legs and leaving him safely on the ground, unharmed but completely immobilized. Dmitri rushed from the opposite angle, and the stranger repeated the process, precise, controlled, efficient. No strikes to vital areas, no excessive force, just perfect neutralization. Anya came third, then Mikhail, each disarmed and deposited within seconds. Maya's hand moved to her sidearm, but something made her hesitate. This wasn't how enemies fought. This was something else entirely. The stranger stepped into a shaft of moonlight, breaking through the clouds, hands raised peacefully, and spoke with an American accent that carried absolute calm. Friendly. Navy SEAL, Joint Task Force Operations. My name is Jackson Cross. Maya's stomach dropped as he slowly produced military identification. Her tablet suddenly connected to an encrypted military channel she hadn't accessed, displaying his credentials, his mission parameters, his complete operational history. They had been running parallel operations in the same theater, tracking different branches of the same criminal network. She had just ordered an attack on an Allied Special Forces operator. The realization hit her like physical force. Her legendary judgment, the analytical skills that had made her one of the agency's top field operatives, had catastrophically failed. Worse, she had endangered her team and potentially compromised both operations through sheer assumption and pride. Jackson Cross lowered his hands slowly, his expression showing no anger, only patient understanding. Your team will be fine. No injuries, just temporarily immobilized. You run a tight operation, Agent Hartley. Your formation was textbook perfect. The compliment somehow made it worse. Maya's face burned with humiliation as she helped her team members up, each of them equally shocked by what had happened. She had built her reputation on never making mistakes, on being 3 steps ahead of everyone else. This era felt like it undermined everything she had worked to become. I apologize, she managed, the words tasting like ash. Our intelligence didn't indicate American Special Forces' presence in this sector. Compartmentalization, Jackson replied simply. Happens more often than you'd think in joint operations. No permanent harm done. But Maya knew better. Harm had been done. To her pride, to her self-image, to her belief in her own infallibility. As they stood in that cold Romanian warehouse, rain drumming on metal roofs around them, she realized that this Jackson Cross had just demonstrated something she had never truly accepted. That sometimes, despite all your training and intelligence, you could be completely wrong about someone from the very first moment you encountered them. Life lesson. Assumptions, even when backed by experience and training, can lead us dangerously astray. True wisdom includes recognizing that our first impressions may be incomplete and that humility in admitting mistakes demonstrates greater strength than insisting on being right. The most dangerous blindness is believing we see everything clearly.